what kind of cost benefit are companies seeing on the back of using tools like Behavox?
Well, I can talk very precisely to that because I'm involved in almost every cost benefit we do with customers. But before I answer that, I'd like to just make a really, really important pair of points. The first point is many organizations they certainly don't appreciate, I don't think they even necessarily realize the link between the software system decision and how that locks in cost. So when you make a decision to implement a particular system, your people will operate that system. If that system is not inherently efficient, that's going to drive a lot of cost. So what we see is the operating cost can be anywhere between 6 and 18 times the size of the IT cost. Now, I point this out because I sometimes find myself literally discussing pennies with a customer. And I realize that they just haven't thought about the fact that if they think the money here is important, the money in the operating side is really important. And just in case that's not big enough, that will last maybe 10 or 20 years. So one of the challenges, you asked about the modernity, wanting to move solution. One of the challenges people have is, I've locked myself into a technology and a way of working that was decided 20 years ago. That's not going to be efficient. So first one was, there's the cost of the IT ownership cost because the IT operating cost is much higher. So talk about those two costs. What do we see? Most of the time we are replacing cloud-based. But when you start talking about the real legacy providers, the numbers are even more beneficial, but they're cloud-based. So they're moderately modern technologies. And we will typically be hitting about a 50% reduction in the IT cost. And that comes because we look at all the hidden costs as well. And so the cost of exporting data, I say we do it for pennies. In fact, for the regular client, it's free, right? So we have a fair use limit for free, and nobody ever crosses it, right? So actually, that's a cost that's completely avoided. The IT is modular, we're running on cloud, we're doing all this. So the saving there, I say it's about 50% to be kind of what I would expect. On that operating side, which could be, 6 to 18 times larger, we don't see quite a 50%, we see about a 30% reduction. And one of the biggest things, again, there's lots of things that drive this. Now, probably the biggest single thing that drives it is the removal of duplications. And that sounds, what's that going to do with anything? And of course, when you run a case, at some point you've got to if it goes to court, at least you hand it over to external counsel, who are lovely people, but they're very expensive. And they're not going to come back and say, we reviewed this email 3 times because you had it in the thing 3 times, and therefore we're going to charge you a third, right? Well, it's kind of hard to believe, but I'm not sure if it's the largest or the second largest. I don't know who the largest anymore is, but the largest or second largest provider of these solutions in the market. When I ask their clients how much data gets duplicated, they answer between 20 and 30%.
Wow.
So it's kind of hard to believe, but just getting rid of that, just that one thing, reduces the biggest single cost, which is the external counsel cost. And that's just one thing. One of the things I like about this, and if we had 2 hours to talk it through, Farine, I could show you how we release a cascade of things. Some of them are small, some of them are big, but in all those little and big things combined, that's huge. And that's how we have this. I've so many times I sit down with the customer and I tell them that you can kind of see the right look in their face, and then you go through it with them. They kind of go, oh yeah, hold on, so you can do that. Oh, so I can. Wow. And then, oh, okay. And hold on, there's no export cost. Okay. And there's no data center. And you can see it, and they get there. And that's why it's really important. That's why I get involved in the business cases a lot, because I want them to understand. It's great to say, oh, you can save $1 million or whatever. What really matters is, here's how. Because they can then take that away. It helps with their business case, but it really helps them when they start the project. They say, right, we now have, we believe we can save whatever, 100,000 to 100 million, right? And we're going to save this much here, this much here, this much here. Therefore, we need to make sure these things happen. So it benefits realization. And again, it's just part of the partnership thing. Because if you make your clients successful, that's a great feeling for them. And they'll remember that, and they'll want to stay because they now know you can make them successful, and you will make the effort to make them successful. And you'll pay attention to them and invest the time. And, it's great.